When people visit the modern state of Israel, many of the antiquities they see today were shaped by Herod the Great. The New Testament narrative describes him as the crafty slaughterer of the innocents in Bethlehem, but history also shows him as a supremely gifted diplomat and administrator. His magnificent building projects for the public, as well as his own personal security, are a marvel even today. His mother was a Nabatean princess, his father a diplomat with high connections in Rome. As the vassal king under Rome, Herod was considered a half-breed Idumean convert to Judaism by the Jewish aristocracy in Jerusalem. Focused on surviving in the midst of Roman imperial power, he was not accepted by either community, Jewish or Roman. Eyed by suspicion by the Jewish elite as a shrewd politician and visionary, Herod began a monumental and ambitious renovation of Solomon's 900-year-old temple in Jerusalem, which was nearly a ruin. When completed, the temple was considered a breathtaking masterpiece, even in its day. The modern western wall is a remnant of the platform with its characteristic megalithic ashlars. Naturally, the temple area became a major commercial district, and this area would have been filled with merchants. The people needed water for purification, so Herod renovated an earlier Hasmonean aqueduct, transporting water to the temple precinct. This marvel of over 22 kilometers and a very small gradient originated in pools he built on the far side of Bethlehem. Located in the modern neighborhood of East Talpiot, it's an adventure to walk through a large portion of the aqueduct system with its ancient and deep air shafts and pointed arcades. While the spiritual reconstruction of the temple in Jerusalem appeased the faith of the Jews, Herod's creation of the secular port of CAESAREA MARITIMA provided a counterbalance of business for the Gentile world of the Romans. With no natural harbor on the coast, Herod created an unprecedented deep-sea artificial port. Considered to be an ancient wonder, the port and city connected the spice route of the east to the commerce of the west. To create the vast breakwater from scratch, engineers sank floating rafts with hydraulic concrete of volcanic ash. Present-day divers enjoy investigating the remnants in the underwater museum today. It was here at Herod's Promontory Palace that St. Paul sat with Festus and waited to be tried in Rome. Secure the favor of Octavian Caesar Augustus, and crossing perilous winter seas to see him, Herod built 3 temples to his patron, and which followed a template in design. The most ostentatious was here at Caesarea. When the ships entered into the harbor, the temple glimmered far off the coast. The second temple was located in the hills of the city of Samaria. The third possibility was probably the temple at the sources of the Jordan River at the cult center to Pan at Bonias. Archaeologists think that another possibility might have been at Omrit, here in the area of the modern Golan Heights. The New Testament records that on the way to Caesarea Philippi, Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" To which they replied, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." With imperious Rome and such a magnificent temple in proximity, the statement must have resonated with the disciples. Back in the hill country, Herod built up the burial site of Abraham and Sarah at the Cave of Machpelah in Hebron. He augmented and surrounded the site by a walled complex. Herod's life was characterized by murder, intrigue, and fear of enemies, even within his own family. Gaining legitimacy by marrying the elite princess Miriamne, he recommended her brother Aristobulus to be high priest. Threatened by his popularity, Herod invited him to his royal resort in Jericho. There, Aristobulus was playfully but intentionally held underwater, drowning in this pool. After discovering that his wife might have been unfaithful, he put her to death. It was rumored that he embalmed her in honey. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Herod's first patron, Mark Antony, investigated this event as murder. deciding to gift the oasis of Jericho to Cleopatra. She leased it back to Herod at great expense, humiliating Herod. While Jericho was a lucrative date palm and balsam industry, Cleopatra nearly broke Herod's treasury. Relentless insecurity drove Herod to develop a series of wilderness fortresses to facilitate a speedy, incremental flight out of Jerusalem. The fortresses of CYPROS, as well as Carantal, guarded the prosperous oasis of Jericho and the approaches to Jerusalem. The monastery perched on Carantal is accessible by cable car and is of great curiosity to modern visitors. With imagination as well as expertise in function, Herod's 3 terraces of the northern palace at the Masada fortress seem to utterly defy engineering. Suspended on the north end of the plateau and inaccessible to invaders, Herod included baths, beautiful frescoes, and facilities to store food for 100 years. The ingenious water system of canals collected the scant rainfall into giant cisterns. Even further afield, beyond the Jordan Rift, Herod built a similar fortress at MACHAERUS, where eventually John the Baptist would be held as a prisoner and beheaded. Within this context, the Magi from the east emerge in this locale, looking for Messiah, King of the Jews, but it was not Herod they had in mind. They likely sojourned by this well on their way to Bethlehem. Evading Herod, the Magi fled, and according to the account in Matthew, the Holy Family fled to Egypt. Herod had all the children under the age of 2 in Bethlehem massacred. The palace, fortress, and mausoleum at Herodium would be Herod's final resting place. Like juggling a set of knives, the opposing interests took a toll on Herod, and by the end of his life, he was all checkmated out. In that sense, he was correct to suspect everyone. Increasingly paranoid and corresponding to his own physical decay, the historian Flavius Josephus gives a graphic description. While stinking with sores and in pain, he planned violence by ordering that Jewish nobles be brought to this hippodrome in Jericho to be executed when he died, so that tears would be shed on the day of his death. Depressed, itching, with apparent gangrene on his private member, he died and was buried here, the only site named after himself, Herodium.